Amara was a girl from a small village, a place where the sea sang a constant song, and the sun painted the world in bright, warm colors. She lived in a little house, painted the color of the sky just before rain. Her mother was gone now, a star in the night sky, Amara's father would say. But she left behind her laughter in the wind. She left behind stories woven into colorful fabrics. Amara held these memories close. They were her most precious treasures. She dreamed of making beautiful things just like her mother did. Her fingers itched to create, to stitch stories into cloth. Her days were filled with simple things. Waking up to the sound of roosters. Walking barefoot on the cool, damp earth. Her dreams, however, were not simple. They were big and bold, like the hibiscus flowers that grew wild by the road. She saw patterns in the curve of a palm leaf. She saw colors in the evening sunset. Her heart wanted to capture all this beauty. She wanted to sew it into dresses and shirts. She wanted the world to wear the joy of her small village. This was the fire that burned inside her, a quiet but steady flame that no one could see. But life changed when her father brought home a new wife, a stepmother, with a smile that did not reach her eyes. At first, Amara tried to be kind. She shared her food. She shared her stories. She tried to share the sun that lived in her heart. But her stepmother's heart was a closed door. She saw Amara's light not as a gift, but as a threat. The new woman of the house brought a shadow with her, a shadow that slowly began to creep over Amara's world, dimming the bright colors and silencing the happy songs she once knew. The change was slow, like the tide coming in. A missing button on a dress was Amara's fault. A pot that boiled over was Amara's carelessness. Small things at first, but they grew. Her stepmother's words were like little seeds of doubt planted in her father's mind. Amara felt a shift in her home. The air grew heavy. The laughter faded. The stories her mother left behind were tucked away. And Amara, the girl with sun in her eyes, started to feel the first drops of a long, cold rain beginning to fall upon her spirit. The whispers started at the market, soft at first, like the rustle of dry leaves. Words passed from one person to another. The stepmother's stories took flight. They said Amara was lazy. They said she was disrespectful. The stories twisted and turned, growing uglier with each telling. Soon, the whispers were no longer soft. They were loud. They followed Amara down the dusty village roads. They bounced off the walls of the small shops. The people who once smiled at her now looked away. Their eyes held suspicion. Their doors closed a little faster when she walked by. Amara felt the change in every corner of her world. The women who used to share recipes with her mother now gathered in tight circles, their voices dropping when she approached. The children she used to play with were called inside. She was alone. A small island in a sea of familiar faces that had become strange. The sun in her heart began to dim. The pain was a heavy stone she carried everywhere. She would walk to the sea, her only friend now. She would tell her secrets to the waves, hoping they would wash away the hurt. The isolation was a thick wall around her. It was built with bricks of lies and mortar of gossip. She tried to speak, to tell her truth. But the whispers were louder than her voice. Her father, confused and tired, believed the stories. He saw her sadness and called it defiance. He saw her silence and called it guilt. The home that was once her sanctuary became a cage. The lies had poisoned everything, turning the sweetness of her life into something bitter. She was judged by stories she did not write, a character in a play she did not choose. One evening, as the moon climbed high, Amara made a decision. It was a hard choice, born from pain and loneliness. She could not stay. She could not let the whispers become her truth. She had to leave the village, the sea, the only home she had ever known. She packed a small bag with her mother's fabrics and her own dreams. There were tears in her eyes, but there was also a spark, a tiny, flickering light of determination. She would not let them break her. She would find a new place, a place where her hands could create and her heart could heal. The city was a shock. It was a loud, roaring beast made of concrete and steel. Cars honked like angry geese. Buildings scraped the sky, blocking out the sun she knew so well. It was nothing like her quiet village. The air smelled of smoke and speed, not of salt and flowers. For a moment, fear gripped her. She was a small girl from a small island, lost in a giant world. But then she remembered why she came. She remembered the whispers and the pain, and that memory became her shield. She would not be defeated by this new noisy world. Amara found a small room to rent. It was not much, but it was hers. She found a job in a factory, sewing endless seams for little pay. Her hands, which once dreamed of creating beauty, now worked on a fast, demanding assembly line. The days were long, the work was hard. Her body ached, but her spirit refused to break. Every night she would come back to her small room, and she would pull out her mother's fabrics. She would sketch her designs. She would sew her own creations, stitching her hopes and dreams into every piece. She saved every penny she could. She used her money to buy books about fashion and business. She studied late into the night, her mind as hungry as her stomach had sometimes been. She learned about patterns, about textiles, about how to build a brand. The factory taught her speed and precision. The books taught her the language of her dreams. She was building herself, one stitch, one page, one long day at a time. The pain of her past was not forgotten. Instead, it became the fuel for her fire. It pushed her to work harder, to learn more, to dream bigger. Slowly, things began to change. She started selling her own designs at a small market on the weekends. First, a scarf, then a dress. People noticed her work. They saw the colors of the Caribbean sunset in her fabrics. They felt the rhythm of the ocean in her designs. Her small stall grew. She hired another girl to help her, then another. She moved from the market to a small shop. Her business, born from a tiny room and a big dream, was starting to grow. Amara was no longer just a survivor. She was becoming a creator, a businesswoman, a force. Years passed. Amara's brand, named Sunrise, became known for its vibrant colors and beautiful craftsmanship. She was successful. She had a beautiful home in the city and a business that was admired by many, but she never forgot her village. She never forgot the girl who stood by the sea, feeling alone. One day she knew it was time to go back. Not to show them what they had lost, not to seek revenge. She returned to give back what the whispers had tried to take from her, hope. She returned not as a victim, but as a queen with a purpose. She arrived not in a fancy car, but with a truck full of sewing machines. She gathered the young women of the village. Some of them were daughters of the people who had whispered about her. She stood before them, her voice calm and strong. "I am Amara," she said. "This place is my home. It hurt me, but it also made me strong. I am not here to remember the pain. I am here to build a new future with you." She did not speak of the lies. She spoke of opportunity. She spoke of empowerment. She told them that their hands could create beauty, just as hers had. Amara donated the sewing machines to the community center. She started a workshop, teaching the young women how to sew, how to design, and how to run a business. She gave them the skills that had saved her. She then offered them jobs. She hired them to help produce a new line for her brand, a line inspired by the village itself. The whispers of the past were replaced by the hum of sewing machines. The gossip was replaced by the sounds of learning and laughter. The community began to heal, stitch by stitch. Amara's journey taught her village a powerful lesson. It showed them that resilience can turn pain into power. It showed them that forgiveness is stronger than bitterness. She transformed her own story from one of rejection to one of redemption. She did not just build a fashion empire, she rebuilt a community. Amara, the girl who was once misjudged and cast out, had returned as their queen. A queen who ruled not with a crown, but with kindness, generosity, and the unwavering belief that every person deserves a chance to stitch their own beautiful future.